Hello, friends. Welcome back to your English class. I'm Jasmine, and this is the 10th module. In the previous module, we were discussing the chapter A Photograph written by Shirley Tolson, taken from the book Hornbill. In the previous module, we have already discussed the first stanza of the poem. Now, in this module, we are going to discuss the remaining stanzas, that is, stanza 2 and 3. Let's continue with stanza 2. In the stanza, you can see the poet speaks about a different period of time. Here, the poet stops looking at the photograph and recalls what her mother used to say about the photograph. The poet is not sure whether it was 20 years after the photograph was taken or 30 years after it. But she remembers her mother telling her to look at how the cousins called Betty and Dolly looked at that young age. The poet's mother also asked her to look at how their parents had dressed them up for a visit to the beach. Perhaps the plan to take the photograph had been there all along. The poet says that her mother used to consider the photograph as an inroad to the past that she had left behind. On the other hand, the poet herself considered the memory of her mother laughing as a relic of the past that she missed every day. In both cases, the memories of the past made the two women contemplating them feel disappointed as they tried hard to come to terms with what they had lost. Now we are moving on to the final stanza of the poem, that is stanza 3. In this stanza, the poet says that her mother has been dead for the past 12 years, that is, the same number of years that was the age of her mother in the photograph she had been looking at. The poet is able to think of her mother's death, but she has no words with which to explain how that death has affected her. The fact that the death has silenced her mother has also left her speechless. Thus, the poem ends here. Now, let's have a quick analysis of the poem. As you read the poem, you can see there is no rhyme scheme. Thus, the poem A Photograph is composed in blank verse. Its title is very much appropriate as it reminds the poet of her mother. A photograph is something that captures a certain moment of someone's life. The person might change in course of time, but the memories attached with the photograph are eternal. In this poem, the poet's mother is no more, but the photograph makes her memories come alive. The mother's sweet face or her cousins heavily dressed up for the beach have all changed with time, but the moment captured in the photograph still gives happiness to the poet's mother when she views it 30 to 40 years later. The poet reminisces that the sea holiday was the past of her mother, and for her, the laughter of her mother is past now. Both the moments of life have been permanently etched the poet's mind with a feeling of eternal loss. Death now has overpowered the innocence of these moments and the pleasure they treasured. Finally, the poet concludes the poem on a melancholy note with the comment that there is nothing to say or comment upon this sad event, and the silences seems to silence all the other thoughts. As I already mentioned in the beginning of the module, Shirley Tolson's poem A Photograph is a tribute to her mother. You can see the poem describes three stages in the passage of time. In the first stage, the photograph shows the poet's mother standing at the beach enjoying her holiday with her two girl cousins. She was around 12 years old at that time. The second stage takes us 20 or 30 years later. The mother would laugh at the way she and her cousins were dressed up for the beach holiday. In the third stage, the poet remembers the dead mother with a heavy heart. The photograph revives a nostalgic feeling in the poet. Now let's wind up the module here. In the next module, we will be discussing more about the poetic devices used in the poem. I hope the session was helpful. Thank you.